My name is Gurneeta Vasudeva Singh, and I'm currently an associate professor at the Carlson School of Management at the University of Minnesota. I had first heard of IIASA while I used to work at the Tata Energy Research Institute in Delhi. And then while I was pursuing my PhD, I came upon this call for proposals for the YSSP program. At the time I was doing my dissertation research on fuel cell technology alliances, and I was looking at the role of how these alliances and institutions interact for knowledge outcomes. And I thought maybe I should just, take a shot at this and apply and then see what happens. And I didn't really know a lot about systems analysis at that point. And then to my great surprise, I was selected for the YSSP program, and of course I couldn't have been happier. It was fantastic. It was absolutely out of the world to be, living by a vineyard and working out of a palace. And to be part of a great international community of senior scholars, people who had been applying their research for policy making and for informing policy analysis, but also with my cohort and with my peer group of PhD students from all over the world. So I think it was a fascinating experience. I continued to work on my dissertation research for the most part. At that time, I was collecting data mostly for technology alliances for fuel cell technology development across a number of different applications. And I was also working on patent data. So the patents provided me with an indicator of what companies were doing from a knowledge building standpoint, how they were investing in R&D, what areas of R&D pertaining to these technologies were important to these companies. And I think I was fortunate because the other member of my cohort who was working with me in the Transitions to New Technologies group was also using a very similar patent-based methodology, but looking at a different technology. I think he was looking at solar panels, solar photovoltaics. And so there were some complementarities there in terms of the methodologies we were using. And as it turns out, my other colleague who was with me at that time is working at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, which is right next door. So we haven't collaborated formally, but I think it was very useful sharing the office with him because we would have those conversations and it would be very, very natural and emergent. And I think what was really a highlight for me at the time was that our senior visitor in the group that summer, was Brian Arthur, who has pioneered work on increasing returns to scale, which has a lot of application in technology and innovation related areas. And so having those conversations with somebody of his stature and having somebody, a very, very strong researcher like Brian Arthur sitting next door to you the entire summer was something that I could have only dreamt of. And I think having those conversations with him was also very helpful. I'm coming back after 13 years, so I haven't been back to IIASA since the YSSP program, but I have continued doing the research that I started at IIASA. And even today, the presentations that I've made are about fuel cell technology innovation applied to the transportation sector and how fuel cells are competing with electric vehicles and the competition and complementarity in the platform development for both technologies. So my research has remained in that area and is going forward. So I see a lot of that happening because I got that initial validation at IIASA, and I got that confidence that what I was doing was relevant and important. Because I think it gives researchers who are still in their early stages of pursuing their PhDs confidence that what they're doing is important, is relevant, it's an endorsement. It legitimizes the research that they're doing by an institution which is supported and backed by national member organizations, by scientific organizations that are at the highest echelons in their respective countries. And I think for a PhD student to have that kind of validation and endorsement is a huge deal in terms of giving them the encouragement and the confidence to move forward with their research. Not to mention the collaborations that might come out of it, not to mention the unexpected learning that happens because you hang around with people, you talk to people. So I think the YSSP program gives people a lot of opportunity to have these natural emergent conversations which are not planned, which are not structured. And I think having that kind of a program is really unique. I don't think there are programs like this in many parts of the world or any parts of the world.